carefully, released her fingers as if they would shatter at his touch, and laid them with gentle care on the bed, then turned just as Easton Springhill, his distant cousin by marriage and the closest thing he had to his sister, appeared in the doorway of the bedroom. He moved away from the bed and followed Easton outside the room. "She seems in pain," he said, his voice low with distress. "She is," Easton answered. "She doesn't say much about it, but I can tell it's worse the past week or so." "Isn't there something we can do?" "We have a few options. None of them last very long. The hospice nurse should be here any minute. She can give her something for the pain." She tilted her head. "When was the last time you ate?" He tried to remember. He had been in Tokyo when he got the message from Easton that Joe was asking for him to come home. Though he had had 2 more days of meetings scheduled for a new shipping route he was negotiating, he knew he had no choice but to drop everything. Joe would never have asked if the situation hadn't been dire. So he had rescheduled everything and ordered his plane back to Pine Gulch. Counting several flight delays from bad weather over the Pacific, he had been traveling for nearly 18 hours and had been awake for 18 before that. "I had something on the plane, but it's been a few hours." "Let me make you a sandwich, then you can catch a few Z's." "You don't have to wait on me." He followed her down the long hall and into the cheery white and red kitchen. "You've got enough to do, running the ranch and taking care of Joe. I've been making my own sandwiches for a long time now." "Don't you have people who do that for you?" "Sometimes," he admitted. "That doesn't mean I've forgotten how." "Sit down," she ordered him. "I know where everything is here." He thought about pushing her, but lovely as she was with her delicate features and long sweep of blonde hair, Easton could be as stubborn and ornery as Joe, and he was just too damn tired for another battle. Instead, he eased into one of the scarred pine chairs snugged up against the old table and let her fuss over him for a few moments. "Why didn't you tell me how things were, East? She's withered away in the 3 months since I've been home. Chester probably weighs more than she does." At the sound of his name, Easton's retired old cow dog that followed her or Joe everywhere lifted his grizzled gray muzzle and thumped his black and white tail against the floor. Easton's sigh held exhaustion and discouragement, and no small measure of guilt. "I wanted to, I swear. I threatened to call you all back weeks ago, but she begged me not to say anything. She said she didn't want you to know how things were until—" Her voice trailed off and her mouth trembled a little. He didn't need her to finish. Joe wouldn't have wanted them to know until close to the end. This was it. For 3 long years, Joe had been fighting breast cancer, and now it seemed her battle was almost over. He hated this. He wanted to escape back to his own world where he could at least pretend he had some semblance of control. But she wanted him here in Cold Creek, so here he would damn well stay. "Truth time, East. How long does she have?" Easton's features tightened with a deep sorrow. She had lost so much. This girl he had thought of as a sister since the day he arrived at Winder Ranch 2 decades ago. An angry, bitter 14-year-old with nothing but attitude. Easton had lived in the foreman's house then with her parents, and they had been friends almost from the moment he arrived. 3 weeks or so, she said. Maybe less. Maybe a little more. He wanted to rant at the unfairness of it all, that somebody like Joe would be taken from the earth with such cruelty when she had spent just about every moment of her entire 72 years of life giving back to others. "I'll stay until then." She stared at him, the butter knife she was using to spread mustard on his sandwich frozen in her hand. "How can you possibly be away from Southerland shipping that long?" He shrugged. "I might need to make a few short trips back to Seattle here and there, but most of my work can be done long distance through email and conference calls. It shouldn't be a problem. And I have good people working for me who can handle most of the complications that might come up." "That's not what she wanted when she asked you to come home one more time," Easton protested. "Maybe not, but she isn't making the decisions about this, as much as she might think she's the one in charge. This is what I want. I should have come home when things first started spiraling down. It wasn't fair for us to leave her care completely in your hands." "You didn't know how bad things were." If he had visited more...